Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Always enjoy visiting with my friend Austin Golding. What a terrific young leader in the state, leading that. His family's been in the business 3 generations, as he pointed out. In this particular company, 2 generations, and he's got a lot to say grace over. You can imagine. It's also very interesting understanding sort of the presidential election cycle that we're on and how much the energy policy plays into that and how much the industry is concerned about which way this election may go. So I don't blame him. I definitely don't blame him. So now let's shift gears and move over to my friend Hunter Dawkins, who's the owner and publisher of the Gazebo Gazette. He's also a contributor to SuperTalk Mississippi News, and we've really enjoyed that association. In fact, he represented SuperTalk over at SEC Days, and we'll be talking about that here in just a second. But Hunter, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. And actually, it's funny, Ricky. I was thinking about you this morning in my mailbox. I got the Wildlife Mississippi, and they were talking about their 2 new appointments, the governor appointments on the commission, and I know you've been big on that, and that's something that's obviously important for our whole state. So.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited about both of them, actually. Todd Hairston's from the coast, and he was on my outdoor show Monday a week ago, and he's got a great story of redemption is the way I would call it, and he's going to be a terrific leader. In fact, I was in the Delta for a funeral and came back through Jackson and happened to be passing through Jackson at exactly the moment last Thursday when they had their commission meeting. So I went to the commission meeting and saw him and Colin Maloney, who was from Tupelo, sweared in. And the way I would describe the commission meeting and the air in the room is that there was new air in the room. It was, and by the way, this is the first time I'd ever set foot in that building. I've watched all their shows on video, and you could quiz me on it, but I've never actually set foot in the building. So it was really good to see people that I've been communicating with and who have been on my show that I've actually never seen in person, but I've obviously gotten to know them through the show. But as you know, I was practicing a really good form of what I would refer to as public service journalism as I focused on the work of the commission and the public trust that they're responsible for, and talking about open meetings and really drilling down on the need for change. And it's been over 2-year journey, and so now we're in a new position with 2 new commissioners. The governor clearly took his time and picked 2 good ones, and we're moving forward now because I got some tough decisions I got to deal with. But I love when it all works out the way you hope it will work out. So thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, as you know, the Mississippi Wildlife Parks and Fisheries is an important committee, and before they were existent, before DMR used to be a part of them, and so it's obviously huge throughout the state. So.
Yeah, I'm actually there's a foundation called the Foundation for Wildlife Fisheries and Parks, and in fact they were a sponsor at one time of the SuperTalk Outdoor Show, and most recently they now have included the DMR in their foundation activity. So what that means is, and it's been approved by everybody, and so they're not just raising money for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, but they're also raising money for DMR now. And it's going to open up some avenues of money fundraising here in coastal Mississippi that I think will be good for both organizations. So I love it. Joe Spraggins is a terrific leader. He's been sitting in on the foundation board meetings now for quite a while, and that's all official now. So that's good. That's good stuff. So how things at your newspaper?
Well, everything's going well now. As far as I know, you guys know, August is a little bit slow because everybody's getting back to school, but this is also the time of delinquent taxes, at least for me being part of the newspaper that publishes the delinquent taxes for Harrison County, second largest county in the state. Thank goodness. I've got great relationships with the Chancery Clerk, Angela Thrash, and the tax collector, Sharon Nash Barnett. And, those are two, movers and shakers among elected officials in the county. And working with them together and putting those things out there, I really think that's an important part of publication and print publication, because both of those are needed. And not only are they needed, they're needed throughout the community and throughout the county. So.
Good, I know. So yeah, we're into hurricane season.
Yeah.
We don't know yet if this at least this area disturbed weather they're watching will get into the Gulf of Mexico. Certainly, the current models don't suggest that is the most likely scenario. So anything could still happen. But the way the Bermuda High is beginning to settle in. Yeah. And it's kind of a harbinger of what's to come. It looks like it's going to be a Gulf of Mexico season. Let's just pray we don't have to deal with that.
Absolutely.
I know you're thinking of that too. So, hey, listen, I was thrilled to see you go over to the SEC days. I've seen some pictures of you interviewing Will Hall. I see you had the opportunity to ask a question of Jeff Levy, the head coach at Mississippi State. You were actually on ESPN when you were asking your question. So, and you, of course, you got to see Lane Kiffin. But what was it? Was this your first SEC days to participate in?
It was the first SEC days that I had ever participated in. Thanks greatly to Steve and Kim and JT, who were all helpful in getting me that communication with the SEC conference. But that being said, I tell everybody that asks me how was it, and I say, well, it was work, 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. I mean, you had to really get yourself motivated to put yourself in the right position, or it was packed on that main stage all day. And then there was another area where it was just straight up internet workers. That's all they were doing. And then there was the radio row, which is, and I'm sure you've heard stories about. I mean, Richard and Brian and Michael are all the way in the back corner, and they're the largest, radio station, at least coverage in Mississippi, and yet they're all the way in the back. It's all the way, ESPN, Radio Row, all the way across the board. It was an intense experience, but it was great. It was probably one of the best, that I've had in my career, at least, just by intense hype, everything. Hurry. It all had to be right now. And that was a great experience because, of course, in my journalism job with the community newspaper, I don't exactly have to work as fast with that, but I need a little bit of a pick me up every now and then. So
yeah, no, it's a great experience. Of course, in all of my roles and responsibilities in media, we always sent people to SEC days. In fact, when I was in Alabama, you can only imagine the number of reporters we had involved because of University of Alabama. Yeah. And Auburn. But, SEC is a multi-billion-dollar business. And this day of the transfer portal and paid players and whatever, it's only made the SEC stronger because,
exactly.
The best players are navigating their way toward the SEC. And but I would imagine that aspect of it is kind of dominates a lot of the conversations, does it?
Well, I wrote an article about Greg Sankey and the 5 points that he wanted to said would make not only the SEC successful, college football successful. He laid it out. It was a long talk that he gave on the main stage, but in those areas, he mentioned Congress, state legislatures, courts, all the little small details that you need, that the conference needs to be able to be successful. And not only that, with the entire college football, at least, if they can get on the same page with all those 5 different points. And like I said, you can see my article on SuperTalk.fm. But if you see all those different spots, if college football and college athletics are successful in all of those different areas, then things are going to be a lot better for college athletics, and not only that, for universities in general.
Well, it'd be interesting to hear some of the conversations that take place, behind the scenes. Excuse me, between reporters, because I've said this, and Richard's been on the show, and Brian's been on the show, and we've talked about this, but the reality is that it's harder for fans to follow today because you get high on a player and then he gets a better offer and he leaves, and
Sure.
there's not stability on the teams the way you used to see. In fact, there was the Martin kid that's playing for the Saints now that came from Yale. He actually talked about, somebody asked him a question, why didn't he do the transfer portal? And he said, well, we had won 2 and we wanted to win 3 championships, and the power of team and bringing the team together, that's the thing that kept him there. But you don't hear many players talking in those terms anymore. Hey, when we get on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Hunter and Dawkins. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have Hunter Dawkins from the Gazebo Gazette and also a contributor to SuperTalk Mississippi News, who's fresh back from the annual SEC Days meeting in Dallas, I guess it was this year. Yes, and we were talking before we went to break that, the transfer portal and, not having the kind of loyalty to one team, the highest bidder kind of thing. It's kind of messed things up for fans. It's hard to follow teams unless you're really in there watching all the moves. What do reporters say to each other when y'all are chatting about it?
Well, there's a lot of talk about a cap, and not only from Sankey's discussion, but as far as from NIL money. There was a lot of big talks, and not just about football, but about everything, about having a cap on how much you can offer, how much you can give a player. And obviously that's not necessarily known even after the House case. It was just a settlement in the from the state, I guess it was in Tennessee, but it was an appeals case over the NCAA with the settlement. But that being said, Ross Dellinger, who's Yahoo Sports, the main guy, Ross and I have known each other forever because his dad coached me in high school.
Right. And he's been on my show before from Biloxi, for sure.
Ross went to Stanislaus, and Ross and I have known each other for a while. And we were talking about that, just about what is there going to be to have to make a change, because there's not only the fact of the cap limit or a salary cap style thing, but also a rule about transfer portals, about, this can't just be open market free agency, because they're trying to make it similar to the NFL where, you have to sign almost a contract. That's the big details about it. Is there ever going to be a contract fulfillment? And Sankey was big on saying that all these different aspects, courts, state legislature, Congress, there has to be one unanimous platform.
See, I actually think because college football is not the pros, okay? Like it or not, it's not the pros. But I've always believed that players should get paid, because especially in football where you have so much, like again, the SEC is a multi-billion-dollar business. I mean, and these players were not making anything. Sure. So, but, when you start to consider it, I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but just from a layman's point of view, when I read about caps, that makes so much sense to me, because then it's not, because a player may want to stay at Auburn, but he's getting more money to consider Ohio State or Texas, whatever the case may be. If there's a cap and he's already at the cap, then he's going to be less likely to leave. I think that's a good thing.
But also, Ricky, with that cap, there's got to be a little bit similar to what the NFL is. There has to be a little bit of free agency, where when you sign a contract, that contract, forces you to do this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And kids have to be able to know that. And that's a lot of what the discussion was. And there's, different ideas and theories thrown out there, but in the main figure, that's generally what is, and all the coaches generally agree with that. Every coach that I saw that got up there, they were all in agreement that not only the cap limit, but there needs to be some structure to keep the universities and college level from getting way out of hand.
Yeah, right. So you don't have a player who goes to Colorado, plays 1 year and leaves, or goes to Ohio State, plays 1 year and goes to Colorado.
Sure.
Yeah. There's some commitment, some longer term commitment. Here's what we're going to do in terms of compensation for you, but here's what you're signing on to do. And if you don't stay with that, there's going to be a breach of contract. And then you got lawyers involved and agents involved, and oh my goodness, it's gotten so complicated.
That's exactly what it's become. But just like Lane Kiffin said last year, we're a professional industry now. And it's unfortunate, but that's also why you have the big expansions. You have the Texas and the Oklahoma coming in, as well as other teams, because of that level of trying to gain that notoriety, and especially with TV coverage now. So.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of Lane, he embraced it almost immediately. I mean, he some of the older coaches that are around, they tormented themselves over it, and Lane said, "Okay, it is what it is. Let's go figure out how to maximize."
Well, and I think his experience in the professional level really helped out with that, because that made him kind of at least able to understand what the kids are going through and all the rest. So.
I'm a big fan of Auburn. I used to be a big fan of Alabama. Obviously everybody follows Alabama, but had a lot of family members who went there. But my son went to Auburn, and so I'm a fan of Auburn. We spent a lot of time over 4 years, actually longer than that, 6 years. And as he finishes,
better be quiet on SuperTalk with that, because
hey, that's the way it is. But what's interesting, Auburn is, if you look at how Auburn has performed in the transfer portal compared to how Alabama has performed, Auburn has done really well. Sure. And the reason for bringing that up is that Auburn's coach is kind of an old school coach, has embraced the reality of the new day, and he's making the best of it. It's so interesting to watch this. Hey, what we'll do, we'll get you back next week or two, and we'll continue this part of the conversation. This would be very interesting. And I need to reach out to Ross Dellinger and get him to join me, because he's the man on the bubble talking about this stuff for sure.
Yeah. Ross, so he'll definitely give you a lot better information than I can. So.
It's been a pleasure, my friend Hunter Dawkins. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care of yourself, Rick.